what I really like about it is if you have some sort of branding, you can actually upload like your logo. It'll take your logo and the color scheme and save it. And when you go into the templates and like, let's say you choose something that stands out to you, with one click, it'll switch that entire template to your colors. It'll add a PNG of your logo. You can move it around. You can take it out, and it just makes it easier.
Hey, I'm Dustin.
And I'm Steve. Welcome back to the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast, the finest phototainment in the world. We are an irreverent look at photography. This podcast, like aspirin, will help you recover from your wedding hangover. Dustin, tonight we are joined by Ulices Del Toro from the Wedding Photo podcast.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
What's up, my guys?
Ulysses, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. You see what I'm rocking?
Wow.
Well, is that a Wedding Photo Hangover shirt all the way from the world of Zazzle?
Oh, yeah, baby.
We made those ourselves, Steve. Don't lie to our listeners.
Dustin, Ulysses is back on the podcast. It's the anniversary of his first time guest appearing on the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I had no idea
today.
I was going to be on.
That makes two of us.
He was just sitting there with his computer, a microphone, headphones, the whole deal, and a Wedding Photo Hangover
And the shirt on.
I was like, I'm getting a call from Dustin and Steve.
Yep. And you just were like, oh, let me, I've got a beer already in my hand, ready to go.
How you doing, Dustin?
I'm good. I'm great.
It's good to see you, man.
I got to experience a little bit of civic duty today.
Uh-oh.
Whoa, civic duty. Dustin, what's up?
So our neighborhood that we live in, that we just built a house in this year, backs up to like farmland. And after years of sitting unused, somebody finally bought it this month and wants to turn it into a neighborhood. It's just kind of like Noblesville.
Nice.
Fort
Wayne, moving on up.
Yeah.
More housing for more people with more jobs.
And so, of course, like all the older people in our neighborhood were like up in arms about it because it's going to connect to our neighborhood.
They can't build a neighborhood. We built a neighborhood.
Right. There can only be one. And so, yeah, there was like a big public hearing downtown about whether or not they could change it from agricultural to residential. And so me and a couple of the guys that live around me all went and like pre-gamed, drank, got tacos, and then went to like listen to all the old people in our neighborhood like yell at other
Dustin,
old people.
I'm taking I'm just going to throw this out there. Right before we started recording, you told me, quote, Steve, I had a really rough day today. I just had so much work. I missed dinner tonight. I didn't have a chance to eat because I've been working so hard. And now what I'm hearing is I was drinking and eating tacos.
I never said I had a rough day. I said I had a long day.
I was like, Dustin, I'm so sorry. Man, that sounds so terrible.
I know, and I'm like, please,
so
Steve, stop apologizing. It was a great day.
Wait, so Dustin, you guys pre-gamed it before you guys went down to this town meeting?
Yeah, because
I just imagine you guys like getting super drunk and marching down there with like torches.
Oh, there was no march. There's this great little taco joint right across from the courthouse. So we planned this all out so that we could drink and then just walk right across the street, stumble in,
awesome.
Find a seat. And so we were all kind of thinking, oh, this is going to be like a 30-minute ordeal. I'll get back to the office. I've got a few things I've got to go photograph. I didn't realize that these aren't things where they just do like one zoning thing. They do all of them for the whole city in like one, meeting. And ours was last on the list. So, I mean, needless to say, I learned a lot, but I was definitely sober by the time they got to our neighborhood.
Like you learned how to like hold your pee in until you had a restroom break. Is that
I
learned
what you're learning? How important drainage is in consideration of zoning.
So you didn't learn how to hold your pee in. You were just pissing in the...
Just draining all over that place.
I guess since I'm here.
So,
Yeah.
Dustin, I invited Ulices on, not just because this is 1 year anniversary, but also because, oh gosh, you wanted to talk about a bunch of Sony stuff, and I have no idea. I figured Ulices made the big jump from Canon to Sony. You made the big jump from Nikon to Sony recently. So you could probably use somebody to talk to about that, because I'm not going to be there for you. Let's just be honest. I'm still on Canon. I'm riding that ship until it sinks.
Till it sinks.
Yeah, I'm Titanicing it.
I don't know if that's words to live by or not.
I'm going to Titanic Canon. I'm going to Titanic it so hard.
I'm going to ride this thing right into the motherfucking iceberg.
Yeah. So, Dustin, Ulices, I got you both here. You guys have both already mentioned you're drinking. What are you guys drinking?
Go ahead, Ulices.
All right. I am having a dinner stout by Hobo Brewing Co. It's called Meat and Potatoes. It's pretty good.
Ooh, that sounds good. Mainly because I'm starving. But
You didn't eat before you came on? You didn't eat a second dinner?
I swiped a piece of pizza. The tacos were lunch. How is that a second dinner?
Wait, when did this meeting take place?
Noon.
You got drunk at noon.
Welcome to the off season, baby.
I thought I was being the bad boy. I went to Chris Kindle Market tonight, did some ice skating, had a ghoul beer, I think they called it. It's a hot beer. It tastes like wassail mixed with beer with a little bit of black licorice in it. It was not good. It was not good at all.
Does that
Doesn't
festival
sound
go
good.
all the way to Christmas?
Yes, it does, Dustin. It's Chris Kindle Market. It's a Christmas thing.
Yeah, it's like a caramel thing.
So, Ulices, how is that dinner stout?
It's delicious. It's actually the second time I'm having it, but
Is
I
it? It looks
didn't know I
pretty
was going to be
dark.
on here, but I thought it might be a special night, so I picked this up.
I always keep one under the table just in case. You never know.
Oh, Steve and Dustin are calling me. Hang on a second.
He's got a secret WPH stash under his table.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go. There we
in
go.
the reserve. Pull this one out of the old vault.
Let me just dust it off. There we go. We're good to go.
Dustin, what are you drinking over there? I mean, I know what you're drinking. I can see the can. Good
I
beer.
know. It's a great beer. It's a Taxman Investor Ale. It's a Belgian-style golden ale with notes of honey and vanilla. One of my favorites from the Taxman Brewing Company, which is a great Indiana beer.
For a great Indiana man like Dustin McKibben. Sadly, tonight, I'm not drinking an Indiana beer.
Blasphemy.
I've been so jealous of you the last 2 weeks, Dustin, with your Brewdogs. So I've got a great Scottish beer brewed in Columbus, Ohio. The Brewdog Hazy Jane IPA.
How is that one?
Oh man, it's delicious. I went to the store. They had the Punk IPA that you had, the Elvis Juice that you had,
Both of those
and the
are good.
Hazy Jane. And I just looked at them and I was like, one of these beers is 7.2% alcohol by volume.
Which is
the
why
other
I
two are
haven't
like
bought that
5 or
one.
6. I'll do the Steve Van Elk thing and go with the real boozy one.
Mm-hmm.
You know how it is. Just had to get my lips on some of this this famous Scottish beer that James Kelly keeps talking about. So we do have some follow up from our last week. Last week, you talked about email marketing and Dustin building his email list. Bryce Michael Keegan Hudson from our very own Facebook group wrote in to say his 9 to 5, he's basically a certified email spammer. So he's at work.
Which I would love him to elaborate on.
And since he's technically talking about industry research type stuff, he can send messages out to the Facebook group while at work because it's industry research, right? If he has to justify it to the boss. So he says there are a few different ways to have emails go to spam, because I said, if you send out stuff from your actual email account, people could start flagging it as spam, and then like people on like Gmail or whatever, where it's been flagged as spam, they might just, everybody has your address flagged as spam and it just starts going to spam for everyone. So Bryce says that Having keywords in your emails to make them seem spammy can also get them sent to spam. At the same time, emails will go to spam based on your individual reading habits. So it's not just if everybody else on Gmail sends them to spam. It's also like if you just delete emails from a certain sender all the time and you never read them, then they just start going to spam, which could become a problem if you're like sending out spammy emails to clients of yours and then you have to send them like a real email and they just haven't read any of the like spammy stuff you sent. So Bryce says that it probably is a good idea to go ahead and use a different email address to send out your marketing and promotional stuff than the one that you use for like contacts with clients and stuff like that. So, I mean, then he kind of got into Canadian law versus like U.S. law and the U.S. can spam laws. If you guys are super interested in like email stuff, jump on into the Facebook group and you can read more about that because it's kind of way over my head. So I don't know what I'm doing there. So I don't even know how to sum this one up.
It was super informative.
Yeah.
He went on to say that, like what I mentioned on the podcast about perhaps like setting up a secondary email specifically for your spamming would probably be a good idea. Mm-hmm. But what I really want to know is what Bryce does as a day job. So what I'm picturing is he's like works at one of those places that's sending out those like Haitian or Nigerian princes that have money for me. And I just have to call them with my social security number and all my information. Bryce, is that what you're doing?
I'm envisioning Bryce works for like MailChimp or he works for a company that uses a MailChimp account.
That's what you would think.
He works for a Nigerian prince who uses MailChimp. He works
for a Nigerian exactly. Based out of Ontario, Canada. Yep.
Yeah, it's all making sense. All making sense. So, Dustin, you talked last week about Facebook Live, and we're going to jump straight into our topics here because you got back on Facebook Live to do an unboxing of your Sony gear. How did that go, Dustin?
It was good. We're just trying to every now and then drop in some live content without prep, without anything. I will say the only reason I've been okay doing it is because the quality of the iPhones now, the cameras are so good. And we can wear like my ear pods and do the audio through those.
AirPods or ear pods?
I'm not Sony.
He's got the off-brand ones.
I'm no longer sponsored by Apple, so I can call them whatever the hell I want.
They're the EarPod Pros.
EarPod Pros.
Earbuds.
Pro Plus. Earbud Plus.
Earbud Plus.
But yeah, so because originally the unboxing Facebook Live video, I was going to try to do it on my laptop, and so that way I could see comments or anything that would come in. And then I saw what the picture quality looked like coming off of my 2017 MacBook Pro, and I was like, "Oh my God, this looks horrendous." No, I'm not posting this to the webs. And so then I sat my phone on my MacBook Pro and did it that way.
I just want to say, Dustin, I was over at your house for a shoot one time, and we actually did like a Facebook Live test. This is before we started the podcast using, was it a Sony camera or a Nikon?
We were trying to use my Nikon stuff.
Yeah, and we had so many problems with audio-video sync with that. So just shooting with an iPhone is just fix that for you. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
What I like to hear.
I mean, I'd still like to get back to a place where I can use all that really expensive stuff I bought to do Facebook Live stuff. That Thunderbolt to HDMI conversion thingy.
So I want to get down to the real reason I brought this up, though. Ulices, I'm glad you're here as another person who does a podcast targeting wedding
Ulices
photographers.
Does a podcast?
So Ulices, you own a company that does, wedding photos, and you have a podcast that does like content for wedding photographers. If you were going to do a live unboxing on Facebook of new gear you just bought, which clientele would you think that would interest the most, Ulices? Do you think it would be most interesting to wedding photographers? Or other photographers? Or do you think it'd be most interesting to people getting their pictures taken?
I guess it would depend on how much reach I wanted, 'cause I've got a little podcast that you guys, you two might have heard of it. It's the Wedding Photo Podcast.
Very
the
catchy
Wedding
name.
Photo Podcast. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that because I have a podcast that, pertains to wedding photography, I guess most likely I would choose to do the unboxing there.
Or Ulysses, would you go this route? Because perhaps you preemptively posted that you're selling all of your gear. So you were starting to get messages from clients freaking out that, oh my God, like you're selling all of your equipment. Are you quitting? Are you retiring? So you share it to your photography page so they can be like, oh gosh, no, he's fine. He's actually getting new stuff. So our photos are going to be better. And
so what we're hearing is a marketing mistake you made. You had to cover up by making another marketing mistake. 2 wrongs don't make a right, Dustin. 2 wrongs don't make a right.
oh, but they do.
After the many years of listening to the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast, I never once got the hint that you guys cared about your clients.
See? Exactly.
Which is why Dustin should have put all these videos in the Wedding Photo Hangover account, The people he really cares about.
I just assume all the people at the Wedding Photo Hangover probably have jobs and lives, and they don't have time for live content.
I'm one of the lucky few to be one of Dustin's friends on Facebook, so I did get to catch some of that video. It was
very
selective.
It was pretty good. Very selective of who I let in. But yeah, the reach that we get with live content is just blows my mind as to what we get with just stills and videos that we would shoot and post afterwards. So we're going to continue to do it. I just have to come up with content.
Imagine making that live content work for maybe like a podcast you do. Imagine that. Can you imagine that, Dustin?
Yeah.
Dustin, I do have a question, Dustin. I did see that you also went live for your Christmas photos. Mm-hmm. I know you guys talked about how that went and everything, but how did how was the engagement doing the live?
That's
Facebook
what
thing
started.
that?
That's what started this whole thing. Was we talked to friends who do a lot of the marketing, Steve, what do you call it, where you're like selling products direct to consumers? We call them multi-level marketing?
No, that would be business to consumer marketing, I believe.
People that sell like the
BTC?
Jewelry and the hair stuff.
Oh, now you're talking about multi-level marketing.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. You didn't say where you were going with that. A company
have
that
friends,
sells a product to a client or a consumer is not a multi-level marketing scheme.
We have lots of friends who sell those kind of things, and they do these Facebook Live videos like once a week to talk about like different products and stuff. And Corinne was just talking with one the other day, and I happened to like listen in because I get kind of annoyed by all of her like Facebook Live videos. And she's like, but oh my gosh, like the reach I get on these things is ridiculous. So I'm like, we have to start implementing this.
Did you ask this friend of yours who's slinging Tupperware? The reach is ridiculous. What about the sales? Because that's
she's
really
always
important.
She's always posting pictures of her like checks and success on Facebook.
If you could just give me this account, specifically the one where they post the checks, hopefully where it has like the number of the check and stuff. Oh, man.
Info. But like she just posted yesterday that like posting around Thanksgiving generated enough money for her to pay for all of her Christmas stuff.
No, well, it sounds like you have a really annoying friend who I would hate to be friends with.
Yeah,
have you considered blocking this person?
We do. I have. But Corinne tells me these things. But so we're trying to incorporate more live stuff just because we experience so much more reach with the Santa stuff. Mm-hmm. And we only did, I think, 2 live videos. We had planned to do a third the day of the first
would be
shoot.
like a great live video to do. You could do a breakdown of all the money you made doing the Santa sessions, and do that on your Dustin and Corinne site. That'd be a great one. Yeah.
Now that one's going on Patreon.
Do they do live videos on Patreon?
Live videos on Patreon.
Oh,
you should do more live stuff for the wedding hangover group. You got a ton of fans over on your group.
But then I would have to like clean up this room instead of just putting a curtain behind me so people couldn't see the mess, Ulices.
No, not you, Steve.
Oh, okay,
just
good.
Dustin.
Just the photogenic
No one wants
one.
to see you.
Get back in your box, Steve.
We're just here for the voice.
Ulices, you've been doing a lot of like Instagram questions, polls, and stuff like that for the Wedding Photo Podcast. How has the engagement been on that?
Surprisingly, a lot of engagement. That was, I hadn't been posting a whole lot on the Instagram, and as you already know, I'm pretty bad at kind of keeping up with that. I'm lucky if I get an episode up on a weekly basis. But I feel bad. I know I have followers and they reach out to me. So, I've been playing around with Adobe Spark, and you can make a lot of content through there. So I thought I'd play around with that and post on my Instagram feed, and I was surprised at how much engagement I got. But people are still listening to the Wedding Photo Podcast, so that's good. It's good to know.
You had an awesome episode just recently with listener Sally Psycho, friend of the show.
Yeah, that was
all
really
about
fun.
SEO. That was really good. Ulices, though, Adobe Spark, what the hell is that?
Adobe Spark is an app that I guess makes it easier to create content for social media. So there's a ton of templates on there that you can use. What I really like about it is if you have some sort of branding, you can actually upload like your logo. It'll take your logo and the color scheme and save it. And when you go into the templates and like, let's say you choose something that stands out to you, with one click, it'll switch that entire template to your colors. It'll add a PNG of your logo. You can move it around. You can take it out. There's all kinds of fonts and stuff in it.
Is that how you were doing like all the
easier.
backgrounds for the questions and like the posts about the people who are asking questions and everything?
Exactly. Yeah. And then you can switch the layouts to work with IG stories, a template for IG stories, a template for Instagram post, for Facebook, for whatever. There's even Adobe Video that makes creating those same type of things using video clips as well. So
so there's Adobe Spark and Adobe Video?
Adobe Video, yeah.
Has Adobe not considered that they already have Photoshop and Premiere out there?
I just went to it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that they're trying to develop more tools designated for like social media and like vloggers and people that are more like on the go and don't necessarily need all of the tools in the tool belt and want sort of a simplified workflow, or they don't know how to use all those tools in the tool belt.
Well, Ulices is somebody who uses both Photoshop and Spark now. Which one would you say is easier for getting like social content and stuff out?
I mean, I would recommend Spark just because they're both really simple to use, but I haven't tapped into Spark for video.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I even know realtors who are using Spark to do like fun little animated things with the photos I give them for their Instagram
and do you
stories.
quickly just send those straight to your lawyer so you can sue them?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
That's why I encourage it, Steve. How do you think I'm paying for my lifestyle? I'm slowly putting one realtor out of business every day.
Your crazy lifestyle of getting drinks and tacos at noon on a Thursday.
Yeah, it was a rager.
He's just trying to get everyone out of the market so he can become a realtor himself.
Exactly.
Transition into that market.
Mm-hmm.
You'd own the whole stack. You'd have that's not a monopoly. What is it called where you integrate
empire.
vertically? Yeah,
An empire.
Okay, there we go. It's not the word I was looking for, but yeah, cool.
Hostile takeover.
All right. Well, I guess we better get down to it. I'm going to check out for a few minutes, but Dustin, you did your first real estate photography shoot ever with only Sony gear. It's your first time shooting like a real pro thing with all Sony gear, but you didn't use the new stuff you bought? Is that correct?
That is correct. And surprisingly, I did a shoot today, and spoiler alert for this story, I liked it so much, I went back to the old stuff that I shot with the other day.
So Sony stuff though, still.
Still Sony. Yeah, still Sony. But yeah, so the story goes, as all of you know, I switched to Sony. I bought all these lenses, all these cameras, everything. And the one lens, though, that I needed to shoot real estate with that I ordered was a 14 to 24 millimeter Sigma. And turns out it was on back order with no estimated delivery on that bad boy. So I was kind of starting to freak out because I had houses in the pipeline that I needed to go shoot. And so I was going to borrow a lens from somebody, and then I was like, wait, I have a 10 to 18 millimeter crop sensor lens for Sony. Mm-hmm. Can I get by with that? And I'm like, I still have my A6500 kind of laying around somewhere here. And so I decided to just go ahead and shoot with that. And it worked beautifully. And then I refined that today. I went back out and I'm like, I'm going to shoot with it again. 'Cause the only thing I didn't love was the small screen. Mm-hmm. So I own a small HD monitor, like the small HD Focus.
You're complicating the hell out of it.
So I strapped that onto it. And then so I had this beautiful, like, I don't know what that is, like a 5-inch display, 6-inch display. And then I'm like walking around shooting it. It's just so light and it's so nimble. And the one thing that's so different about shooting mirrorless versus shooting like Nikon or Canon is what I'm seeing in the screen is what the picture is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And it's still like really hard for me to like wrap my mind around that for coming from a traditional DSLR. And so it's just like once I see it, I click it, I'm done. I've shot the house in half the time that I normally shoot in.
Because you're not chimping.
Because I'm not chimping, exactly. I'm not like, oh, that light's giving off way too much color cast. I need to turn that off. Or, oh, those windows are way too blown out. I can just immediately like, oh, that's the exposure for the windows. Oh, that's the exposure for that. And then I just, boom, I have my 3 brackets. I'm in, I'm out, I'm done. But yeah, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think I might start shooting all my houses with my A6500.
With the ridiculous HD thing?
With
monitor?
Yeah, with the monitor on it, yeah.
You know,
It's
that doesn't
so
sound so
light.
bad. Yeah.
No.
Have you held the 14 to 24 in real life?
I held them side by side.
It's like the size of your entire setup that you're talking about, right?
Exactly. So it came in the mail yesterday, and I was like, I put it on the camera, I tested it out, and I was like, it's about the same like field of view as the other lens on the other camera. It's a little bit sharper than the other camera, but I mean, like, megapixel wise, it's not that different. And for real estate, I'm downsizing the images anyways for web. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I'm trying to shoot magazine quality images. So I'm kind of thinking that way, like, my full frame can stay in my bag for like professional, shoots, weddings, etc.
And your crop sensor can come out for your other professional shoots.
But I mean, I can have like 2 separate bags. Like, this is like, that was something I was running into during busy wedding season, is like at the end of like a wedding day, like the next day, I would take all of the stuff I would need out of my wedding bag for real estate for the week. And then I would be like, oh shit, I forgot like a transmitter for my flash, or, this or that, or I needed an extra battery. Whereas this way I could have like, this is my bag for real estate throughout the week, and this is my bag for like when I really need the big boys.
It sounds like the answer to the problem was always just buy more gear. Because that's basically what you've done now.
Isn't it always, Steve?
You're making this sound like mirrorless solved your problems, but it's not. You just bought more cameras.
But mirrorless, I do think is much better for what I'm doing.
And you had the A6500 for like the last 2 years. You could have been doing this the whole time.
Every piece of gear I shot with today, I had the whole time. I had the camera, I had the lens, I had the monitor. Heck, I even shot it with a Nikon flash today just to see if I could.
Mm-hmm.
Because surprisingly enough, spoiler, Nikon flashes work with Sony cameras.
Yeah.
No one told me that before I sold all my Nikon flashes.
At a very cheap price, I remember.
At a very cheap price.
So someone did mention that to me when I switched to Sony, that I didn't have to. Oh, it was Eric. Eric had a bunch of Canon flashes, and he said surprisingly they work on the Sony, so I didn't have to go Sony with my flashes.
Eric, your friend who you did a whole podcast with while eating tacos, correct?
Yeah. That was like, I think you told me that was your favorite episode.
I love a good taco episode.
Let's talk about it. Taco.
Ulices, you've had an A6500 for a while now, right?
Yes. I had one, yeah.
Sold it to
you
me.
got rid of it. You got rid of it. Why did you get rid of it?
Well, I had a whole like vlogging setup with my A6500. When we shot wedding films, when we were still like just getting a few here and there, I would shoot with the A6500, and then I would rent an A7 III, and I would shoot with the 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to sell. I had this whole vlogging kit, and I was trying to sell it as a bundle so I can purchase an A7 III. And I actually found someone that traded me the entire bundle for an A7 III.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is now I had an A7 III body, and I didn't have any lenses or anything to use it for like over a month.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, the problem was like the A6500, it's just not worth much. And I use it when we're doing wedding videos. Before we bought the 2 new bodies, as like just a wide safe shot, like back at the church kind of thing, which is because we still have that 10 to 18 millimeter lens.
I love the A6500. We're thinking about getting another one. We're kind of deciding between that and Fuji.
No, I got rid of it. Now I'm thinking about getting another one.
Now that Dustin's brought it up,
no, it
wasn't a really solid camera.
It made for a great like travel camera. You know, I had the Sigma 30 millimeter on it, and I could throw it in my bag, and we just went around everywhere with it. I wasn't really protecting it. I didn't put it like in a sleeve or anything like that. And we want to get it again just for fun.
Yeah, that's kind of why my belief too is I'm kind of thinking if we ever did a vacation camera, but I don't know, who am I kidding? We're just going to shoot with the iPhone. I don't know why I'm saying this. As I'm speaking it out loud, I'm like, no, we're not. We're not going to take a camera on vacation. Got that portrait mode. He's ashamed of us.
He's got to take that wedding photo hangover sweatshirt off.
Ooh. Zazzle knows what they're doing, man. This thing's hot.
That's not from Zazzle. I'm telling you, Ulices, we made that. That is actually insulated with the hair of Steven Van Elk himself.
Oh, man.
We shave his body, and we insulate all of the sweatshirts. It's a great Christmas present. If anyone out there is listening, you can find all of these at the Wedding Photo Hangover.
Yeah, it's still got a lot of taint hair sweatshirts left. Those ones don't sell as fast.
Don't they say the Sherpas are really in this season?
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but yeah, let's go with it.
Those like fuzzy sweatshirts.
Okay, I thought that was like a guide who takes you up a mountain, but yeah, or a spiritual guide. Yeah,
I think you just need a better business to consumer marketing campaign.
We should do more Facebook Lives, and we should also tell people that if they sell our stuff, then we'll, allow them to bring in more people underneath them, who then they'll get a cut when those people make sales.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we'll get a cut of their sales. And
will you be our Steve Taint sweatshirt spokesman, Ulices?
For a cut of your Patreon? Sure.
Yeah.
Whoa. No, we're not multi-level marketing our Patreon.
I would be stealing from myself at that point.
Exactly.
Get my money back.
It's like a coupon.
All right. Are we done with Sony talk, or did you guys have more filth you wanted to spew out there onto this this fine podcast?
I shot something with Sony yesterday for the first time using the new Pro bodies. We bought 2 of the A7 IIIs, and I'm not gonna lie, like I was nervous that I wasn't gonna like the click, like the shutter feeling coming from like a D4, and I know it's like the weirdest thing to care about when it comes to cameras, and I thoroughly enjoyed the shutter of the A7 III. It was fulfilling. It was fulfilling. It was like a nice click.
I currently still shoot with both Sony and Canon. Canon at work, Sony at home. But I love everything about Sony. Like, I came from like an event photography background, and I tend to run and gun, as they say a lot. And Sony has made it a lot easier to not miss focus so much when I do that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So why do you shoot Sony? I mean, why don't you shoot Sony at work?
Well, when I got this job, they already had Canon gear, and
you weren't like, do you know who I am? I dictate what gear is used here, sir.
It gets even worse, Dustin. You want to know, they've made purchases since he got in there, and they didn't go Sony for those purchases, and they didn't go Canon.
They went Nikon?
No.
Uh-oh.
We got a Blackmagic 4K.
Oh, you're doing video.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with Blackmagic. It's just you're kind of limited to only doing video.
Well, we have 5D4s, and we got the Blackmagic specifically for video. Yeah.
Well, if you have a bunch of Canon lenses, though, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, if you want to stick with good glass. Got it. Yeah, no, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't understand all this talk about like missing focus and stuff like that. Like, aren't you guys manually focusing all of your photos and videos anyway?
Manual focus? What are we, dinosaurs?
Hang on one second, guys. I'm losing
Dinosaurs
connection.
making money. Dinosaurs nailing focus, you know?
Dinosaurs not trusting our second shooters to nail focus.
So that's what it is. You give it to a second shooter and just let them...
Mm-hmm. Second shooters
we're still
are not
here,
trustworthy.
Ulices. Second shooters aren't trustworthy. First shooters aren't trustworthy. Nobody is trustworthy except for me. That's all I'm going to say.
With audio, you're so good.
unless I'm working for Dustin, then I'm not trustworthy. Only Dustin's trustworthy then.
Truth.
That's how it works.
Very much.
You know, you guys can hire me and bring me out to Indiana. I'm pretty trustworthy.
We've been pitching that you hire us and bring us out to California.
All right,
I thought it was the other way around.
No.
I haven't gotten a call from you guys for months.
You're like, I'm trying to build this associate team, this associate brand.
Okay.
I come out to California. I shoot a wedding only so I can see you.
So
that's the only reason I came to San Diego.
Let's move on. So recently, did you guys see this story? A bride was arrested for allegedly forcing a photographer to pay to shoot her wedding.
I didn't see the article, no.
Neither of you saw this article. It's in the show notes. I sent to both of you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I read the show notes, and I saw the article was in the show notes.
You didn't read the article? You didn't click through? Is that... Wow.
It wasn't worth a click through.
All right, so here's what happened. Somebody approached a photographer, asked the photographer to shoot their wedding, and asked the photographer to pay them $50 to shoot their wedding, and said, here's what you can do, though. You can go around and shoot other people at my wedding while you're there, and then sell them prints, and hopefully we'll both make some money off of this.
Wait, how does she make the money?
Yeah, see, that's the part of the article that I got stuck on was like, so the bride wants a cut of the photos that she's taking and selling. Yeah. Yeah. So she's like, first you have to pay me to come shoot my wedding. Then you have to give me a cut of any sales you make off of photos you take at my wedding. And the photographer said no.
So where does the confusion lie?
The photographer said no at first, and the bride started harassing her, sending her hundreds of texts and calling her and saying terrible things, having her friends text her and call her. And so finally and the bride stopped by the photographer's house several times. So finally, to make it stop, the photographer just said, "Sure, I'll shoot your wedding and I'll even pay you to shoot it," without ever intending to go and shoot the wedding, Dustin. What? So the day of the wedding rolls around and the photographer doesn't show up.
That's where she messed up.
Yeah.
Telling her she would go. I was on her side until she said
she was being harassed. How do you...
Did she have a contract?
She said no. There's no contract. She was being harassed. She said no. The person kept harassing her. And so she said, "I guess I'll do it," just to try to stop the harassment. Because I wanted to be like, she shouldn't have said yes too. But when you're being, would this be emotionally abused? Mentally abused? Like, this is not okay behavior.
Spiritually?
Yes.
Spiritually?
Yeah, this is not okay behavior at all. So the photographer doesn't show up on the day of the wedding because she never intended to show up, because she never wanted to shoot it. She said no and only reluctantly agreed when, the harassment wouldn't stop. And the bride sends her dad over to the photographer's house to bang on the door and try to force the photographer to come and shoot the wedding.
What are they going to do? Ask for her money back that she didn't pay?
We already have the $50 you paid to shoot our wedding.
Yeah, exactly. But what you paid us to come perform work at our event.
Paying to do work. It's just utterly insane to me.
I feel like there's a lot missing to this story.
The situation didn't diffuse after the wedding, so the photographer contacted the authorities, who arrested the bride and the dad and used the evidence collected from all the harassment on social media and text messages and stuff that the photographer submitted. And currently the photographer explains they don't know what is happening, but they're glad that, something happened, and it's, the stop-ins, the calls, the messages have all stopped for the time being.
That's why with any problematic bride that we see on the horizon, if we book a bride and we're like, "Ugh, she might be a problem," we always start a fake Facebook or Instagram account under her name and send threatening and harassment-like messages to ourselves.
That'll hold up in a court of law. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and that way, if anything ever comes back to bite us, she's like, "Oh, you didn't get that photo of me kissing my husband at the altar or during the ceremony. I'm suing you." I'm like, we felt harassed. We felt threatened. We didn't even want to be here. See these text messages?
That come from a number that is not the bride's number.
Hey, it says her name in my phone.
Wait, did they go through with the wedding?
Yes, yeah, they went through with the wedding. Wouldn't that have been great? They're like, no, wedding's off. The photographer who paid to be here didn't show up. We're going to sue that photographer for the cost of the wedding.
Because eventually the photographer, this is just going to be a story to tell, but that poor groomsman, man, he's still married to that bride.
For us. Story for us to tell. But yes. They're still married. We hope.
Have either of you guys ever dealt with somebody crazy like that who's harassing you, trying to make you pay them to do work?
I've never had anyone harass me.
Steven's always trying to get me to do his work for him.
Always harassing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So back
it's okay, Dustin. You can tell us, Dustin. He's always
is this a safe place now?
This is a safe place.
That's why Ulices is here to make it a safe place for you, Dustin.
My therapist tells me otherwise. But no, we had a bride once when we first got started who had some unrealistic expectations and was very unhappy, I guess, with our end result. I never heard anything directly from her. And she wasn't harassing us per se directly, but she was talking to other vendors that were a part of her wedding behind our back, if you will. asking like what they thought of us and all of these things.
Can you believe they just posted they're going to sell all their camera gear? What are they going to shoot my wedding with?
iPhones, duh. That's what I told at least 3 brides when they reached out to us. When they were like, wait, are you guys closing shop? And I was like, no, we just got that new iPhone 11 Pro, girl. Don't you worry.
And we got a backup just in case.
Yeah, we bought an iPad. And my wife's got one of them new Apple Watches. I think that takes pictures. But don't worry, we still have the drone.
See, if I were you, Dustin, I would have just been like, well, I got to sell all my camera gear so that I can afford a new Mac Pro, you know?
Yeah,
Nowadays, it's
right.
all about the editing of the photos. So
All about that editing with those iPhone photos. Just need to be able to, I need 100 gigs of RAM just to run Adobe Spark. That's what it's all about.
That's how much
It's a
I
great
have
place
on
to
my
start
phone.
from. So back when I ran a video production company, we used to get contacted by people all the time who wanted us to shoot events for them. And they didn't want to pay for us to shoot the events. They wanted us to pay them to be able to shoot the event because we'd be able to sell so many videos to their clients. So this would always be like dance places or like choir concerts, that kind of stuff. And it was just like, we said no almost every single time because it was like, once you take into account the fact that you have to license all the music and it's like a mechanical license to reproduce it and sell it as like a DVD or whatever to people, like unless I'm charging like $35, $40 per DVD, I'm not going to make any money. And even charging $35, $40 per DVD, I'm not going to sell enough that I'm actually going to be able to make like a decent enough amount of money to justify shooting and editing. And even if I was selling at like $20 a pop, I probably still won't be able to sell enough to make like justify all the shooting and editing and like hiring somebody to like run the booth to like sell the DVDs and stuff, and hiring a second shooter to be there with me to also be shooting. Like, so there's a lot that would go into it, and like people would get offended that we didn't want to shoot their event, and they would call us and say like, why won't you do this for us? We really need someone. And it's like, if you want to pay us to show up and like shoot it and cover like the cost of like all the licensing and stuff, so then we can actually sell stuff and make money from it, like, yeah, we'd be willing to. But we're not going to pay you guys or give you guys a cut of like the sales so that we can shoot this thing for you. So when I read this story about the photographer, I felt like some real flashbacks to that point in time in my life where I ran a video production company. And
well, that's a little different than this, though, because I mean, we've been contacted by dance studios and stuff in the past, and like karate, studios, and like things that host like
karate
tournament
would be different
style.
because there's like not any licensing for one that takes place with music and stuff like that.
Oh, so karate isn't cool enough to deserve licensing?
I'm sorry.
Are you a karate hater?
Do they play music while the kids are doing karate in the tournament fights?
I've never been to a karate fighting tournament,
good.
but I like to think that the songs from Three Ninjas are constantly playing in the background.
It's just
like the soundtrack is on repeat.
It's just Vanilla Ice's song from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Just go ninja, go ninja, go.
No copyright issues
go
there.
ninja. Exactly.
If you can just get enough people in the audience to start chanting "Go Ninja," you still might get a YouTube strike.
But that's why, Steve, you have to rise up when those people contact you and you say, don't worry, we will offer this video service to you, but we do charge a small fee outside of this to rewrite all of your music for all of your dance routines so that it's original music. That's how you get around it, my friend.
Yeah, I know you wanted to use that Billie Eilish song, Bad Guy. We cannot do that. So we've actually written you this completely different song. It's called Mad Eye. It's going to be great. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. See, now you're thinking with the noggin.
Yeah. And it'll just be $50,000 for that one song.
And you can only license it for the year. Through MusicBed.
So, Phantom producer Louis Novak wrote in this week to let us know Nikon is shutting down its authorized repair program.
I saw that.
Dustin, did you
Good
ever
thing I
use
jumped
their
ship.
authorized repairs before you jumped ship?
All the time. Or I used Nikon. I never used any of their authorized repair centers because as an MPS member, you get 20 or 25% off all repairs. So that tended to outweigh the savings I would get from a third-party repair center.
How much does MPS charge for Sony repairs?
Trick question. I see what you did there. Sadly enough, that has been the one bummer about switching to Sony. Is with Nikon, I didn't have to pay anything to be an MPS member. I think it's the only pro membership that doesn't cost anything. All they do is ask that you have a certain amount of camera equipment, whereas Canon, you have to pay to be a member. And I just found out Sony, you do too. You get your first year free, and then my first year was up, and they just sent me a bill for $100.
Oh no, Dustin, what will you ever do?
I know. I'm like, I need to create some Sony content on Patreon to cover my $100 Sony Pro membership.
Sounds like the answer is more. The answer is more live videos.
Yeah, that'll go up on Dustin and Corinne on Facebook.
Yep, check them out. They're great.
So, guys, there's one other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. A Kentucky photographer is suing for her religious right to discriminate against LGBT weddings. And also Game of Thrones and zombie-themed weddings.
I see how they, looped them all in there together. Yeah. I'm suing for the right to not shoot weddings for people who do podcasts. Is that a possibility?
It's a good thing we're married.
Dang. Always one-up me there, Ulices.
Who are you trying to not have to shoot their wedding?
Don't worry about it.
So I saw, we posted about this in the group, and I think somebody mentioned something like, why wouldn't you want to do themed weddings? So Dustin, Ulices, do you guys ever do themed weddings?
I love doing themed weddings. I'm all about themed weddings. Why would I not want to do themed weddings?
I'm definitely not against doing themed weddings.
They always get us excited. They send that initial email inquiry, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do a Harry Potter themed wedding. We saw you guys are really into Harry Potter, and we want to be really into Harry Potter, and so we're gonna do
one character in Harry Potter other than Harry Potter.
Ron, Hermione, Dumbledore, Voldemort.
Ron, Hermione?
Want me to go on? They're married. It's like one name. It's their celebrity name. Anyways, Steve just feels like he can be the only nerd on the
first
podcast.
Or last name for any of those characters.
Granger, Weasley. Shall I go on?
Oh.
Glad you didn't ask me.
You didn't claim to want to shoot a Harry Potter wedding.
But yeah. I mean, I'm not the Harry Potter fan. I like Harry Potter. Don't get me wrong. My wife, this beautiful woman.
I'm the fan.
She used to be in high school one of the founding members of, what was it called? The Muggle World or whatever, like the fan site. What was it called? MuggleNet. It was like back, when GeoCities was a thing and all of that. See, Ulises is too young. He doesn't remember these things. But before Facebook and MySpace, when you actually had to have fans forum sites before Reddit.
Yeah,
I am the youngest. I am the youngest millennial here. I'm so young. I'm almost Gen Z.
See,
let's assume
you're the problem.
You guys were talking about emails and stuff earlier. I really wasn't following along.
But
what is an email?
Anyway,
I have a texter.
I have what's up?
I sext all of my clients everything.
Sext. But we would always get these inquiries for themed weddings, and then by the time the wedding actually happens, all of the fun themed things get stripped away by parents and budget.
We had one themed wedding.
Mm-hmm.
We had one themed wedding this year, or it was last year, but it was a Great Gatsby theme, And
Ooh.
it was actually pretty good. Like they had like a casino set up. They had a tarot card reader. Everybody was dressed super dapper. I learned how to tie a bow tie for the first time. It was pretty good.
Do you still remember how to tie that bow tie?
Absolutely not.
Bow ties are cool, Ulysses. Bow ties are cool. So are fezzes.
We've only had
I
one masquerade themed wedding.
Everybody showed up in masks after the wedding took place. The bride and groom took their masks off, and everybody was like, "Wait, that's not who we thought was getting married today."
Corinne said she actually felt like it was done very well. But this is fun having Corinne like pseudo behind me. Like, I mean, this is how I normally live my life. Like feeling like I hear my wife's voice in the back of my head. That's what 20 years of marriage feels like. But again, I felt like I heard her say 20. Like we haven't been married. Like, but I'm not sure if she really said that.
I really said.
Okay, she really did say that. Or if it's just the voices in my head.
It's good. You're really listening.
Sometimes too much. Like I'm one of those people who don't like to wear their seatbelt, even though I know I should. And it took about 5 years of hearing my wife. I know, Steve. Save the judgmental looks.
What? No,
Save the
we will
judgmental
not
look.
save the judgment. What the hell?
And
What the hell? No.
to this
Stop
day-
the podcast. This is as bad as... Okay, this is worse than you saying you only shoot with one card. What
I like
the
that you were about
hell?
to say it's as bad as.
Well, everybody knows the second card in your camera while you're shooting a wedding, writing raw to both. That is the seatbelt of your wedding photography company. What the hell, Dustin? Don't wear a seatbelt while you drive a car?
Yeah, I never said it was the best decision.
How are you alive? How is your business alive?
Sheer good looks. But yeah, so then she would yell at me every time we drive. And so it gets to the point now where when we drive and she's not in the car, I still hear her voice yelling at me. I don't know if you guys have the same with like your wives, like the annoying things you do. You guys probably don't do annoying things. You're pretty perfect humans.
100%. The only
Pretty
annoying
much.
thing I do is shave my taint in the shower to make sweaters for everyone.
Sorry, my wife was talking. All I heard was you hear your wife's voice as you're shaving your taint in the shower.
You heard it right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
Don't we all hear our wife's voices when we're doing that? I can't be the only one, right?
Wow, I don't hear anyone out there chiming in on that one, Steve.
Yeah. I also don't hear anyone out there disagreeing with me. So
Does she normally advise you on ways to do it better? Is that why you hear her voice?
I don't know, man. It's just a voice I hear while in the shower.
Voice of an angel?
Voice of an angel.
As you're bleeding from the taint.
Oh god.
But let's talk best taint shaving methods, guys.
All
Go.
right. All righty.
I'm not
I
touching
like
this
to
one,
use a
man.
Sony mirrorless so I can really see what's going on down there.
That Sony
If
glass
only-
is very
if-
sharp.
If only those things were weatherproofed, then I could really trust it in the shower. Yeah.
That's why you don't you have the macro?
So many taint shavers like me are just, sticking to Canon because, weatherproofing.
Mm. Yeah, if it wasn't so big and bulky.
My taint doesn't complain.
Are we still talking about Steve's taint here, or?
I thought we were talking about cameras, but apparently not. Trying to keep this wedding related.
So if we want to keep this related to running a wedding photography company, one last thing before we go into Q&A, just a personal note from me. It hasn't been happening
To
in the
you.
wedding photo hangover group, but it has been happening in a lot of other Facebook groups I'm in. I just want to say, PSA, Steve Van Elk, straight to everyone out there listening, please shut the fuck up about hard drives and which brands have failed you. Oh my gosh, Seagate failed me and I'll never buy from them again, and neither should you. Oh my gosh, Hitachi failed me and I'll never buy from them again, and neither should you. Oh my gosh, Western Digital failed me and I'll never. Hard drives are made to fail. Literally. They are made to fail. Every manufacturer that makes a hard drive out there makes them knowing that they are going to fail, and that event inevitably They're going to let their clients down. There's no hard drive company out there that's like, I'm going to make a hard drive that lasts forever. They all make them to fail. They're all untrustworthy. So the next time you buy a hard drive, just remember to budget for a second one to use as a backup. Make sure you dump everything from one to the other. Also, RAID enclosures fail. Hard drive enclosures fail. Drobos fail. Computers fail. Cameras fail. Tripods fail.
Single card memory card cameras
Fail.
flawless, though.
Someday, Dustin, your heart and lungs will fail. And if you're lucky, it'll happen before your brain does. So back everything up. Always have a replacement for whatever you use. Never jump into a Facebook group just to complain about one thing one time failing you. Have a backup plan. Clone yourself. Harvest your clone's organs. Like in The Island with Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson.
It's a great movie, by the way.
But, keep better track of your clone than they did in the movie. And remember that one day your clone will try to escape and kill you and take over your life. It's just a fact of life.
Mm-hmm.
Your hard drives will probably escape and try to kill your other hard drives too, So you got to keep them in separate pens.
Have you seen the season finale of Silicon Valley?
I don't watch that show anymore.
That's how it ended. The series finale.
Oh, okay. Oh, great.
Their hard drives
Thank you
fail?
for spoiling it for everyone, ruining it for everyone.
Should have got Seagate.
You see what's going on here, though, right? Like, Steve gets a Drobo, and all of a sudden he's better than everybody else.
I know.
Drobos fail.
Your backup.
Drobos fail.
Now that he finally has a
I've got
really
an
brand new
old
backup
Drobo
solution.
that's failing on me right now.
Oh, no, I will say, though, to Steve's point, that is something, like, as somebody who's super anal about backing up my hard drives.
Yeah. Somebody who's super anal about backups, but doesn't shoot to 2 cards on a wedding day.
Correct.
So take everything you hear from Dustin with a very large grain of salt, preferably on the edge of a margarita glass.
Sea salt. But I get so discouraged whenever I'm looking at Black Friday deals, because that's normally when we pick up hard drives because they go on, great deals. And all of a sudden someone will put, this great deal at Best Buy for this, 10 terabyte Western Digital. And then 5 people will be like, don't buy Western Digital. Mine failed once in 2005 and I would never buy them again. And then you're like, oh, that guy just had that one bad one they put out that year.
Well, there is a
Hopefully.
thing where hard drives.
That was Ulysses' post.
There is a thing where hard
Western
drives, hard drive companies will have a bad batch of hard drives get made in their factories because something's calibrated wrong for some reason. So if you are out there looking for hard drives and you want to make sure they don't fail, I would say pay very close attention to the reviews you see on Amazon about the hard drives. Because sometimes you'll jump in and the Amazon reviews will be like, hey, don't buy this Western Digital Caviar Blue because at 1 terabyte, because the 1 terabyte ones, there is a manufacturing flaw. Those are all failing on people. But the 2 terabyte ones are great.
1 terabyte.
Dude, 1 terabyte SSDs are on super sale this week. Yeah, they've dropped from $120 to $150 from multiple brands at the same time down to $80 on Amazon. It's crazy.
Samsung?
Crazy good
That's
deal.
the only brand I buy.
Yeah, I saw Samsung, I saw Corsair, I saw Western Digital. I saw a few brands I've never heard of before that were also on there. No, dude, it was if you're looking to get an SSD, I would jump on Amazon right now.
I made the mistake of going OTW. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, OTW, the brand.
Yeah,
with my last SSD, and because everyone talks so highly of them, for RAM and stuff, and yeah, it was awful. It was terrible. And so I couldn't figure out why Lightroom kept crashing, because I run Lightroom off a dedicated SSD. And I was like, why am I having so much problems? And so finally I bucked up and just bought a Samsung SSD, which is what I normally use, and no problems anymore.
Those T5s are the best, seriously.
Yeah, that's what I get. They're super good.
And they are also made to fail, just so we're all on the same page here.
No, they're not, Steve.
All right, we should do some Q&A.
I do have to Well, I do have to credit Dustin to something that I do now. I do back up to a second
Why
card.
would you ever admit
unlike
to this?
Dustin.
Oh, wait, you back up to a second card because of Dustin.
I'm
I
like feeling
do
like
back
I'm getting
up.
ready to get complimented, and then quickly the rug is pulled out from under me.
So,
No, I actually-
So
He
Steve
did
is the
mention-
voice in your head, like the seatbelt.
He
Where you're
mentioned
like,
one time
"Oh,
that
Ulysses."
Dustin, you said you shoot on large cards because one of the things that could happen is if you're constantly pulling memory cards, that's another thing that might corrupt it, and who knows if
Typically, that's
true
what it does.
or
Yep,
not.
yep,
I
it's
haven't
true.
really heard that, but since I do back up to a second card,
You heard
I
it from
do
me.
shoot. I do shoot on 2 large cards, and I typically don't have to switch out the entire night.
See, and you've never had a card go bad,
But I also back up just in case.
but you've never had a card go bad.
True.
Needless to say, too, none of us are shooting on like transcend memory cards anymore.
Oh Jesus, yeah. I had a Kingston go bad.
Oh, Kingston, I forgot about that brand. Yeah, remember the days of where like when you first get into the business and you're like, oh, it's a CF card. How it can't be any different than these like $300 SanDisk, because at the time SanDisk cards were crazy expensive, and
they're
CF
still
cards in
crazy
general are
expensive.
crazy expensive.
You can get a Kingston for like $16.
Yeah,
like
or
a
you get the
64
Transcend
gig.
with like the rainbow colors on it, and you're like, I don't even know what speed this is, but it's 32x.
All the speeds of the rainbow. Don't worry about it.
I'm sure it's reliable. We
Gosh.
still use a Transcend SD card in our Zoom recorder.
Is
I
it the
don't
one
know
that
what to
shipped
do
with
with
it?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, you're probably fine then. The ones
Yeah,
that they
'cause-
ship with are good. They're higher quality.
Gotcha.
So we're gonna do some Q&A, but first we do have to give thanks. Dustin, do you wanna take this one?
So do I have to open up the other
It's-
Google?
Nope. It's right in.
Oh, you
Scroll
finally.
up, at the top of topics. We have to thank a
Top
new
of top-
Patreon subscriber, Dustin.
Oh, you just add it to the show notes. I don't get to pick anymore.
It's a Patreon subscriber. It's not a 5-star review.
Oh,
We're already at an hour and 11 minutes. We're not doing a 5-star review tonight.
giving thanks to Locky Creations. He is locked in at the $5 tier. That would be Herman and Amanda Locke. Not certain who signed up.
We weren't certain who signed up until tonight when Amanda tweeted out how much she loved the podcast and how her husband was probably thinking she was going insane because of all the laughing she was doing while editing. Amanda,
Yeah.
share the podcast with your husband.
I
You don't
also
have
want
to
to
keep us away from him. All right, let's do some Q&A.
Q and Amy, Steven.
Let's do some Q&A.
But Steve.
Ruby from a random Facebook group says, my boyfriend said wouldn't pay more than $150 for family pictures. Laughing or crazy face? What? I don't know what that is. That's a weird emoji. It's like one eye's closed, one eye's open, and a tongue's
think of
lolling
it as
out.
like your head falls off your shoulders and it's rolling down the road.
Heads will roll. Y'all, he's not willing to give up his arm and leg. Should I dump him? Disclaimer,
Yes.
Ruby says, I literally charge $150 for mini family sessions. And her boyfriend said, not going to pay that for family pictures. Ulysses
Okay.
says yes. Dustin, what do you say?
I wouldn't dump him. I would ask if he's willing to donate a kidney or a liver, since he's not willing to give up an arm or a leg, which I understand. I mean, that's a visible appendage. You're not going to easily want someone to cut those off. But maybe other bodily organs he would be willing to donate for the sake of family sessions.
I'm glad when you said bodily, you went with the organs, because typically people would say fluids after that.
Sell his bodily fluids.
He's willing to sell a lot of bodily fluids. Saliva, blood, sperm.
Always going the sperm route.
What other fluids are there to sell?
Toe jam.
That's not
earwax,
Saliva.
mucus.
I already said saliva. Mucus. Who's buying mucus?
Just want to find that one guy. Hey, I'm a mucus collector. I collect rare mucus.
I like this idea, Dustin. Ruby just says to her boyfriend, go sell the kidney, black market, regular market, wherever you want to go. I think it's got to be black market. You can't sell those on the regular market, right? Sell that kidney. We'll take all that money and put it into a slush fund for all your future family photos. So, every time you need to go, you just pull some of that kidney money out of your out of your investment fund.
Just want to picture the conversation with like your Edward Jones guy, and where you're like, "Hey, I just want to put some of this money aside. Can we just label that kidney fund?" Oh, do you need a kidney transplant? I'm so sorry to hear that. Is everything okay? No. I sold my kidney.
This is for family photos in the future.
And I was hoping to get interest on this.
Or she could sell his bodily fluids alongside the family sessions.
So she's harvesting families' organs to sell during her mini sessions. Is that where you're going with this, Ulices?
Yeah, sounds about right.
I mean, the way
Serial
I
killer
heard
level
it
shit.
was that she would be, selling his bodily fluids to the families. You've got a nice family with 2 kids. Maybe you want another kid. I've got this cooler full of semen.
Back to semen again.
I was going to say she bottles up his earwax and says, like, have you guys ever had organic honey? This is not that. And then slides it across the table. But it is organic, and it is locally sourced.
Oh, honey, it is organic. It's just not organic honey.
I like the branding there. Oh, honey, it's not honey. It's like, can you believe it's not butter? Butter.
What? That's called
Know what I mean?
margarine.
Yeah, this is called earwax, but we're calling it, oh, honey, it's not honey, honey.
Oh, my gosh.
My wife is like yelling at me. She's like, don't you guys do a photography podcast?
Don't we? Do we?
Is it?
Brian Marchelatis. Oh, man, I probably massacred that. He told us how to pronounce his name, too. I'm sorry, Brian.
Marculatis.
Retouching a bride with bad skin. Like, I feel bad not retouching the photos, at least the closer up portraits where it's really noticeable. But where's the line?
The line is at retouching.
That's the line?
Mm-hmm.
You don't retouch.
I only retouch if it's one pimple.
1 pimple. 2 pimples,
big.
Totally out.
2 pimples,
2 giant
it's
pimples.
her fault.
Totally
her
out.
fault. Or his. But 1, I'm like, oh, that's a stress pimple. 2, I'm like, you should have been washing that shit.
Wow. Judgy over there. Jeez.
They make products for that stuff now.
Wow. You're going straight to hell for that comment. Ulysses, retouching, where's the line for you?
I don't know, man. How dare he? How dare he, man?
How dare he what? Retouch skin?
We retouch on zits if they're crazy noticeable, but I mean, we photograph it like it is.
Just turn the clarity filter down, right? Am I right, boys?
Jeez. Yeah. Sure.
just get that alien skin. You know what I'm talking about?
Vaseline on the lens. Come on.
Give it that glow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. I'm so glad to have this conversation with the 2 of you.
2 men about retouching women.
Is it just about retouching women? I mean, where's the line? So you would retouch a man but not a woman, you sexist pig?
Or would you... I know probably most photographers would retouch a woman but not a man in wedding photos.
What?
So is that reverse sexism?
We've retouched guys, you gotta take care of pimples sometimes.
For a second there, I thought you said I touch guys.
I touch
didn't hear
lots
the
of
read.
guys. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I have that recorded for future use if I ever need it.
Dustin, I've touched you before. Why would you need to record this?
So that when I go to put my court case together, I have...
I've touched Ulices, too. There's photographic evidence of it that was posted to
His
Facebook. In Universal Studios Park.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
true.
We touched each other outside of Harry Potter World.
Touched a few times, actually.
Was it consensual?
Is it? Oh, isn't it always?
I don't know, Dustin. You tell us. Is it? This is a safe place.
See, I'm watching the morning show on Apple TV, so now it brings like a whole new meaning to that topic.
Wait, right now?
Wow, that went dark.
You're watching the morning show
That's why
while we're recording this podcast?
He's been so checked out from this episode.
You mean you don't? I mean, I record with Steve. I have to have something else stimulating me while we record.
Dustin's actually got AirPods underneath his big earmuff headphones on right now. His earbuds.
Yeah.
They just inject a little bit of marijuana in his ears while he's recording, and also that good
see.
sound.
See?
Yeah, see?
Ooh.
There it is.
I need to get those EarPods Pro Plus.
Oh, jeez. Brian. You should probably have a conversation with the bride about it ahead of time. Not like a conversation like, you have bad skin. What do you want me to do about it? But just, ask if there's anything she would like you to do with the photos. Don't even bring up Photoshop when you say that. Just be like, hey, I was just wondering if there was anything extra. No, don't want to say that. Don't want to say that.
No, see what you do.
Don't bring it up at all.
When you're sending your pre-wedding questionnaire out, have like after they click submit, a little pop-up comes up with 3 photos of 3 different people with varying levels of acne or facial scarring or whatever. Jesus. And it says, out of these 3, which do you most identify with? And then based on their answer, it pulls up hey, just so you know, there might be additional charges involved with your wedding package outside of our contracted agreement due to
the problem
retouching.
There is every single time I would be like, the one on the right, Nick Fury, that's the one I want. I want you to put an eye patch and, cat claws into my eye on that side every single time. I'm never going to say no to that. I want that. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a good look.
So there would be additional charges involved.
You're going to charge me for that, Dustin? Jeez.
Wait, so do you have a different pricing structure for each tier of how bad the acne is?
Yeah, it's like a sliding scale. So they slide the slider, based on which photo best represents them.
They slide the slider. It's literally in Dustin's editing software he built for the internet, and it's just a Gaussian blur. It applies a Gaussian blur.
And it actually charges the highest price every time.
Exactly. So then it automatically sends a note to Pass or Pixie Set or whatever you use, and then they just drop that level of blur on their photos when they hit the gallery.
Yeah, and it's great because when you drag the slider from side to side, it doesn't show an actual price. It just shows money symbols. So it's oh, the higher it goes, the more money symbols it has. But then the price is just the same on the back end for every single one.
Correct.
So some people are like, man, I put it up to 4 money symbols. I thought it was going to be super expensive. Turns out it was only this much money. What a great editor.
Did you see, this is a little off topic, but did you see the Black Friday video that was going viral about the guy who was, he didn't show where he was at, some sort of retail establishment like a Walmart or Best Buy or something. Mm-hmm. And he was going around saying I'm here to get all these great deals. And they had the little yellow tags over the prices, mm-hmm. Saying this is on sale. And then he would flip the yellow tag up and it was the same price as the original price. Mm-hmm. And then he got to one and it was actually more expensive than the original price. But it said, the tag said Black Friday special. And I was like, I wonder how many stores actually did that just to capitalize on the people in their store. So they made it look that's the Kohl's mantra, mark everything up and then put it all on sale.
I saw that on one of the photography groups I'm in. There was like a sale on a lens or something, and it had the price crossed out and the sale price underneath it, and it was literally the exact same price.
Oh, I saw that. I think that was in our group. I think somebody posted that, like it was an email they got.
Yeah.
And it was from B&H or Adorama, one of the big ones. And it was
Steve,
like,
just edit that so it sounds like I know that was your group I was talking about.
that was Ryan Woodhall.
Yeah.
Posted that. See how good my memory is? I just remember Ryan's post. He's the only one.
Brian's a good friend. Brian's the photographer who covered for us when I couldn't be at the wedding because of an accident on the way there. He's a good guy.
He keeps that good content flowing into our Facebook group.
Stephen Nichols from our very own Facebook group says, does anyone else like to deliver Uncle Bob pictures? This is actually the groom's dad. He posted a picture. He followed them around the reception for 45 minutes after their grand entrance. I just backed off like, he got this. I try to deliver at least one Uncle Bob shot in every wedding that has one.
Oh, for sure. I do all the time.
Same.
I try to get a photo with the Uncle Bob. That way I can say, like, hey, check out my second shooter.
Check out my second shooter.
Way,
this person's
By
uncle.
the way, I'm going to need to charge you for bringing a second shooter.
You mean unpaid intern?
Oh, I didn't say they get paid, but I get paid for having them there. That's how it works, Ulysses.
I need to have more Uncle Bobs at my weddings. I'm not shooting enough.
It's nice when you got an Uncle Bob there because it's like, if all my cameras fail, I could just steal his real quick,
That's why I don't ever have to worry about shooting with 2 memory cards, Steve, because I always can rely on that Uncle Bob's photos.
Have you guys ever had an Uncle Bob shoot photos at a wedding, and then at the beginning of the reception, they're out back editing them on their computer, and then they present a slideshow during dinner?
No. Ulysses, does this happen to you?
Yes, it did.
Wow.
We went out back. Everybody was just getting started on dinner. We went out back, and Uncle Bob was literally outside on like a patio by himself editing photos. And then he told us, like, oh, I'm working on these photos. Let me have your email. I'll be glad to send you guys these photos if you guys want. That way you can, turn them into the bride and do whatever you want to them, even though he was literally in the middle of editing them. And then, he put together a little slideshow for them. It was as bad as you expect.
Let's have a slideshow off.
Yeah, I'm going to make mine on Spark Video.
Boom.
I was going to say, multiple times I've had like Uncle Bob's come up and be like, oh yeah, I would love to get your email address so I can send you all these photos, if you want to edit them and deliver them to the client. Every single time it's just like, no.
But hey, I want to ask you guys a real question. Have either of you been Uncle Bob's at a wedding?
No way.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what?
Steve's cracking. Steve is cracking.
What do you mean, have you been
Spill
an
the
Uncle
beans.
Bob?
Come on, Steve.
Yeah.
Have you ever been a sheep in wolf's clothing?
What?
Or wolf in sheep's clothing?
Guys, this is crazy. Like I'm gonna work a wedding and that I'm not hired to work? Come on.
Yes.
It sounds like you're not telling us something.
I shot video at my sister's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a videographer though. But I wasn't like, they didn't ask me to do it. No, they didn't ask me. I just did it just because. And then my brother-in-law, who's also a videographer, he shot some video too. And then afterwards he was like, hey, could you send it over to me? I want your video over to me. I want to edit something together for them. And I was like, great, because I didn't want to do that. So I sent it over. And then I don't think he ever got around to editing it.
Oh my gosh. I Uncle Bobbed a wedding once. We had a friend that got married, and she chose not to use us to shoot her wedding. And we were pretty bitter about it.
And you passive aggressively
so you shot her wedding.
Shooting?
So I knew where they were getting married is super strict and doesn't allow the photographer in the sanctuary. it's like one of those where you have to shoot from the balcony situations.
Oh, okay.
And
Not one of those ones where you have to use like an X-ray satellite to get the photos.
Pretty much. I mean, it was very
Ulices,
very...
is this beer number 3?
What? No. Yes.
Is that the name of the beer? No, yes.
Beer number 3. No. Yes.
So what kind of beer is it?
Oh, I'm not trying to stop. That was Steve stopping the podcast, by the way.
I'm
But if you
used to
must
it.
know,
No,
this
that
is
was you
Anderson.
cracking a beer open, stopping the podcast. Don't act like nobody heard that. We all heard that.
You could edit that out, I'm sure.
I can
That
edit
would
a lot
require
of
too
stuff
much
out.
editing.
This is an old fashioned by Anderson Valley.
What was your second beer? Because you never talked about that either.
Hmm?
What was your second beer?
Hopnaut by Great Divide. It's a double juicy IPA.
You know, in the show notes for this episode, Ulices, it's going to have Dustin 1 beer, Steve 1 beer, possibly a bourbon and coke. Ulices 3 beers.
I feel like you guys were
He's in a different
underprepared.
time zone.
I feel like you guys were underprepared for this podcast episode.
Oh, I had 3 beers sitting out because I thought we were recording 3 episodes tonight.
I have a bottle of Wathan's Kentucky bourbon on the table with me. I'm
Is that
prepared.
what you bought at your fancy bourbon fest?
Oh, no, I did not buy anything there. I wanted to buy the Pappy Van Winkle, but my number didn't get pulled in the raffle. Sad
What year
day.
was the Pappies?
They had 20 years, 12 years, and 10 years, I believe. Maybe a 15-year
Which
or
one's
2
the
in there
best?
as well. The 20-year, Dustin. The 20-year. By
I'm
far
not sure
the
which one
20-year.
we have.
You do not have any Pappy Van Winkle at your house.
You would never know because you've never been to my house.
Ooh.
If you had Pappy Van Winkle, I'd be there
Boom.
tomorrow.
Believe it when I see it.
Hey, when are we
I don't know
going
if
to
you
get...
heard- Ulysses, I invited you to my New Year's Eve party, by the way.
Oh, nice.
That was what I was telling your wife about.
Thank you for that. Unfortunately, I'm going to be shooting a wedding with Alex Bruce.
He's invited too, or she, whatever gender Alex is.
Come on, Alex. Let's just ditch the wedding. We'll go to Fort
Just come after.
Wayne.
Just come after.
When your wedding gets done at midnight in California, just
Yeah.
fly a plane out to Indiana. You show up around 7 in the morning. Don't worry.
Just fly the opposite direction around the earth.
Oh, that's the trick. Time travel.
Exactly. That's my favorite when we talk to hosts in Australia and it's like the next day there. Or is it the day before? I can never remember.
It's crazy. It's the next day for them. They're in our future.
Yeah. And we're in their past.
Well, yes.
So back to my story. I was Uncle Bob at a wedding and I shot.
That's going to do it for us this week. I'm messing with you. Come on.
No,
I wanna hear
that would
this.
have
I
been
wanna
good.
hear this.
That would have been a good cut.
Come on, Dustin. Finish it up.
It would have been on brand. But no, I brought like a 300 millimeter lens and shot from. We got a seat in like the aisle, towards the aisle, and then since I didn't have to worry about being kicked out of the church because I wasn't the photographer, I whipped out my camera and shot like a beautiful, like centered, close, tight photo of the first kiss, and then. I know this is going to piss you guys off, but I took it a step further and I ran home in between the ceremony and the reception, edited it, made a print of it, framed it, and then displayed it at the reception with my business card on it.
This is the bride that didn't hire
book
you?
us.
Okay, just making sure.
Bride who didn't hire you, but who was
who was
okay with
friends.
you putting a print on display with your business card when she hired
Well,
someone
as
else.
soon as I did it, I was like, I would be kind of pissed if someone did this to me, and I immediately, well, not immediately, but like kind of through the reception after like thinking it through, because I was bitter towards the bride, and I realized I was kind of passive aggressively like being a dick to the photographer.
No. Let's go back. You were passive aggressively being a dick to the bride. You were aggressively being a dick to the photographer. An aggressive
But
dick.
it was just, I was just upset because the bride paid double at the time what we charged, and for this photographer who was half
Better.
as good as we were.
better.
How
And
were you
even the bride-
invited to this wedding?
my wife was friends with her. She's the kind soul in our relationship. But to this day, though, that photo I took is the only wedding photo they hang in their house. Could be because it's the only one they've taken the time to print because I already printed it.
Because they didn't take the time to print it. You printed it and put it on display with your business. Did you put your logo on the photo? Please tell me you watermarked it. Please.
I might have put something really hard to find, like a little Easter egg in the photo somewhere.
Gosh, you are the
Dustin,
worst.
Did you book any more weddings from that wedding that you were not hired to shoot?
A lot of weddings, yeah, actually. A lot of weddings. And then
sounds like a win.
All the photos I took at the reception, definitely posted those on Facebook.
You kept shooting? You kept shooting?
Just of the people we were with, like just of our friends.
What
I
did
didn't,
this
go shoot
photographer
all the
say
guests.
to you? What did this photographer say to you? This photographer that you're clearly jealous of. This photographer you're clearly jealous of. What did they do?
They never said a word to me.
Don't
ever.
lie to me.
Still to this day, I've never spoken to them. I don't even know if they're in business anymore, to be honest with you.
You ruined their business. You destroyed it with that one deft business move.
It was a photographer that had such a good business model because his wife was a teacher, a high school teacher, and so his main cream of his business was senior photos. So his wife would just constantly refer her seniors to him, and so every year he would get a fresh class of seniors. And then when they would go to get married 4 years from then, because that's
like the photographer who their spouse is a youth pastor.
Say that again.
The photographer whose spouse is like a youth pastor or whatever. So then, of course, if you go to that church and your kid's in the youth group, you're going to send them to the youth pastor's spouse.
Exactly. So same concepts, but then because people in Indiana get married so young, he does their senior photos, and then 4 years later he's doing their wedding. So he had that's
4 years later. I mean, that's pushing it. I mean.
That's what it is here, man. You do your senior photos, you go to college for 4 years, you get married right out of college.
I mean,
hopefully,
Jen and I,
sometimes before.
One of our photographer friends does like senior photos and that's it. And she recommends like when people come to her, I don't know if it's all the time, but we've shot a few like brides who went to her for senior portraits. They came to her for their wedding and she's like, I don't do that, recommending them to us. And like the last one we did, she was 18, 19 years old.
And you're like, we don't do child brides. Sorry.
She was a legal adult, Dustin. Oh my gosh. You are a terrible human being.
Yes. You guys are completely skipping over the divorce photos as well.
Yeah, tell us more and enlighten us.
Indiana. This is a Catholic state.
Didn't you guys talk about this on your podcast? The guy that was doing the divorce photos? He was doing photo shoots of them actually getting divorced? No?
Probably. Sounds like something we would talk about.
He was causing the divorces, I believe, right? Or was that just what our minds ran to? How you make a profit off that?
I just feel like you guys would be all in on divorce photos.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't want to create
I'm all
the
in
divorce.
On anything that pays me money.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Llama photography. All in about that.
That's going to do it for us this week here on the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast. If you love the show, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. If you want to connect, we're at Wedding Photo Hangover on Instagram. Ulices Podcast is it Wedding Photo Podcast on Instagram?
At Wedding Photo Podcast.
Dustin is on Instagram at Dustin_McKibben. Ulices is on Instagram at... What is it? Which one do you want me to give? Del Toro
at Wedding
Photo
Podcast. You can find our wedding photography at Del Toro Photo. You can find my recent Hawaii fun trip photos at Bound by Beauty.
Isn't that one private though?
I'm an open book. Steve.
An open book with a private personal account. And you can find me at Steven Van Elk. If you want to join the awesome community of listeners that contribute to this show every week, join the Wedding Hangover Facebook group. And if you really want to go deep, join the Wedding Photo Podcast Facebook group. That's Ulices group as well. If you want to help keep this podcast alive, though, head on over to StephenDustinSaveTheWorld.com and you can sign up to support the podcast for as little as $1 a month. On top of the benefit of knowing you're keeping a good thing going, because we got a good thing going here, you also get bonus content. And if you're at the $5 a month level, just like Lot Creations is, then you're going to get the Stephen Dustin Save the World podcast, where we answer more questions from Facebook every single week. The $1 a month, you'll get outtakes and stuff like that from guest episodes like this one here with Ulices, because I'm going to have to cut so much out of this. But I'll put it all on the Patreon, so you can hear all the terrible things we've said.
And don't forget, it's Christmas season, and you can order your wedding photo hangover sweater made out of Steve's actual body hair right now, on sale, I think.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time your head is pounding, your limbs feel like dead weight, and your entire being aches for the sweet embrace of death. That's right, next Sunday after you shoot another wedding.
And for every $500 you spend on wedding photo hangover swag,
you have to talk into the microphone. You have to talk into the microphone.
Bottle opener.
Dustin, nobody knows what you said because you weren't talking into the microphone the entire time you were saying that.
For every $500 you spend on wedding photo hangover swag, Stephen and I are going to send you a bottle opener.
That's great. Yeah, you could buy one of those bottle openers on Sassel for $14.
That can be a part of the $500 you spend.
I actually wish I had bought the bottle opener, because my wife is literally the only person that wears this.
I feel insulted now.
Wow.
That was a lot of hair that went into making that.
You don't know how long it takes to grow out new taint hair.
I'm not going to tell her what it's made out of.
Ulices, so you're shooting with Alex Bruce at the end of the year. What else you got going on before the end of the year? Any other weddings of your own or anything?
No, we don't have weddings until I think February. So this year we still got some family shoots this weekend. Next weekend we're leaving to Utah for Christmas for a couple days, and then I come back and shoot a wedding with Alex Bruce for the new year.
And if you don't want to, you can come to my New Year's party.
Your relationship.
No, we're gonna finish shooting and then go to Fort Wayne immediately after. Yeah,
I'll save you pigs in a blanket.
If we can back up for a second, though, Alex Bruce, you're shooting a wedding with him. That's a real wedding photo hangover success story, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Isn't that how you
like
guys
a
met?
wedding photo hangover, like Tinder type situation?
Steve, since you brought it up, why don't you tell the story?
Didn't you guys meet in our Facebook group?
Thanks to you, yeah.
Because I recommended you to somebody on Reddit, and Alex saw it and was like, "Whoa, I live like right there. What are you doing recommending Ulices?" And I was like, "I didn't know where you lived, Alex."
No, I think Alex was looking for some second shooters in Southern California, and you recommended me, and that's how we met.
I was like, "Do you know this guy Ulices, who I've literally never worked with before in my life?"
He shoots with an A6500, but he's gonna sell it.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He bullies ghosts sometimes.
He's a traditional ghost bullier.
Traditional ghost bullier, as opposed to the non-traditional ones.
Correct.
Dustin, can you explain how the non-traditional ones work?
Oh, non-traditionally. It's pretty self-explanatory, I think, Stephen. I don't think you need to belittle our audience and their intelligence.
We are in the post show now. Dustin, Ulices, what have you guys been up to when you're not working? Any cool shows you guys are getting into? Cool podcasts you're listening to?
Just wrapped up Silicon Valley. There was a lot of controversy over how it ended, and had to watch the latest season just to see what all the hype was about.
Was it worth it, Dustin?
And I love that show. It's one of my favorite shows. It's not the same without the Eric Bachman character.
Got it.
but still it's a great show. Also a little personal for me because the main character could be the twin brother of my college roommate.
Ulysses, how about you? Jeez.
I just got Disney Plus and finished watching The Mandalorian, so I'm all caught up there.
All caught up until tomorrow when a new episode drops.
Actually, I am behind an episode. I caught up on Thursday, so I haven't watched Friday's episode last week.
Oh, so you didn't see the one where Baby Yoda gets squashed after getting the lightsaber out?
Thanks for that, Steve. I guess I'll see that tomorrow sometime.
Yeah, Steve.
It's actually really sad. Like, Baby Yoda's dead. Completely and totally dead. He got squashed.
Well, what's crazy is, like,
AT-AT.
where was Baby Yoda holding that lightsaber the whole time? That's the question that I've been seeing all over Facebook.
Well, Dustin,
does he poop lightsabers? Is that the origin of lightsabers?
When you have a properly
species?
shaved taint, Dustin, you'd be surprised how much you can get up into that anal cavity.
I hope the name of this episode has nothing to do with taints or shaving them.
Yeah, I mean, you need a little KY jelly to help it up, but once it's up, it's up.
Wedding photo hangover with Ulices Del Toro shaving the Christmas taint. That's going to be the name of this episode.
You should name the Patreon episode "Shaving the Christmas Taint." That's pretty good, actually.
This one got so far off into the weeds.
Deck the halls.
It's just going to be about
while
taint
shaving.
Deck the balls with hairs of jolly.
Stephen Van Elk, la la la.
All right, well, I think we're going to have to say goodnight on that note. Jeez.
Have you been watching anything, Steve? Have you been doing anything fun? I know you don't work. You didn't have a project that you were trying to get out last week, which caused all of our listeners to revolt and listen to things like the Wedding Photo Podcast. So what have you been up to?
Lots of work, Dustin. Lots of editing. You know how it is.
No, I just drink tacos and
eat margaritas.
I like to switch it up, be untraditional.
Yeah. Do things the non-traditional way. Got it.
Yeah. You don't liquefy your tacos and then freeze your margaritas?
Yeah. No, I can't say that I do. No. I mean, freezing a margarita, isn't that just a frozen margarita? That's a thing.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
That way you can eat them.
Yeah, you
like
get
an
a
ice cream
frozen
sandwich.
Margarita, and you just pull out a spoon. Done.
Yeah,
it's like cold
soup. He eats them with chopsticks, though, untraditionally.
Mm-hmm. But they're the chopsticks that double as straws.
You got to cube it right so that you can really get it. The chopstick straws.
Steve, didn't you just shoot some music videos?
Yeah. I shot a music video a few weeks ago with my brother-in-law for a hammer dulcimer player. All out like around a fireplace. It was pretty cool. It's a fun time. Spent tonight, ice skating with the kids. Ian he learned how to do it by the end. He started out kind of rough. He doesn't like ice skate or roller skate. Nora did not pick it up. She's I guess just too little for, picking something up in like 10, 15 minutes. But she'll get there
we've
someday.
Been trying to decide if it's worth taking Charlie. And I typically live vicariously through you. So if Nora doesn't do it, then typically I'm like, oh, all right, I won't waste my money on that.
Well, the thing that was problematic was we rented the skates. We didn't we don't own our own ice skates because it's rarely cold enough in Indiana for ice. So unless you're like play hockey or a figure skater, why would you own your own skates? Okay, it gets cold enough for ice. It doesn't get cold enough that like the pond in our neighborhood freezes over and you can walk on it. Like not cold enough that like a body of water is going to freeze.
I guess maybe not. But we're 2 hours further north, so
growing up, there was like a pond behind my house. We used to ice skate on it all the time when we were kids.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, I had my own ice skates, but now as an adult, I do not because I live 3 hours south of where I grew up.
Sounds like you need to move to Fort Wayne, Indiana, Steve.
That sounds terrible.
Boom.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
Right there.
But the rental skates were terrible, and there was no like way to like have my feet in them that was comfortable. So after like holding Nora's hands and taking her like around the rink one time, like Jen did it halfway, I did it the other half of the way. I was like, Nora, do you want to keep doing this? And she was like, no, Daddy, I'm done. And I was like, well, I'm done, Jen. Because I just wanted the skates off my feet so bad. Like my feet still are sore from going around a rink one time. It was not great. Ice skating can
Sounds
be
like
really
you
fun
need a
though.
different size.
Yeah, no, I mean I got.
But I saw
the right size.
pictures of people at that thing that you were at.
Yeah,
and it looked like they were the cheapest ass looking skates
Oh,
I've never
100%.
seen. They were like ratchet straps, not even like tie,
yes, yeah. They're made for
like rental
rentals.
skates.
Yeah. So they're very low quality, low grade, and they're not made to be comfortable on your feet. They're made to fit as many different people's feet as possible.
We saw, speaking of holiday things, we saw Straight No Chaser this week, which I had never seen.
Oh gosh, an Indiana-centric topic. Great.
Oh, is it an Indiana-centric? I was just going to see if you guys had heard of them.
Ulysses, in California, have you ever heard of the a cappella group Straight No Chaser?
When you preface it with a cappella group, it feels like you're bringing them down a notch.
The a cappella group from, is it IU or Purdue? Which one?
IU.
Yeah, the Indiana College a cappella group. Have you ever heard of them? Straight No Chaser.
Yeah, I think they make a trip out this way every. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Damn it, I got really excited there for like a second. I was like, really? He's heard of them. This is topical. And then immediately again with the rug out from under me.
It's hard enough to find freaking ice skating around here, man. What the heck?
I was gonna say, yeah, ice skating is so northern state topical already.
We used to, the city of Riverside next to us used to have an ice skating rink in their downtown area for like their festival of lights during Christmas, but they took it out like 2 years ago because it's too expensive. It's like $1 million to have an ice skating rink for a little while.
To refrigerate it because it's so hot there.
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty cold here right now. Today it hit like 50 degrees. I had to wear a sweater at some point. Earlier,
it's like
earlier in the
23
episode.
here.
Yeah. Earlier in the episode, it was kind of cold.
In your house,
But then
that's heated.
And then we wore.
Do you even have the heater turned on in your house, or does it just get warm enough in the daytime with the sunlight that you're pretty good?
Sometimes it gets cold enough where I have to turn the heater on. Yeah.
Every once in a blue
Sometimes
moon.
it drops below 60 and it gets pretty cold, Steve.
Here's a fun fact, Steve. I'm curious if you knew this. Southern like climate states such as California, I've been told, and I did not know this until this week, you do not get natural gas pumped into your home to heat your furnace. Is that a true statement?
I don't know. This is new to me. I have no idea.
So in cold climate states such as Indiana, we have natural gas heat. Like we are heated by natural gas because it's a more cost-effective way to heat our homes. But I found out from people I was talking to that live in South Carolina when they were telling me about their furnace, and they told me they had electric heat.
You can get electric heat
like,
in Indiana too, Dustin.
Correct. No, you can, but no one gets that. That's like super impractical because it's so expensive. But because you guys rarely use heat, it doesn't matter. It's just for like that every once in a while where you need to turn the heat on.
No, we have natural gas here.
Son of a bitch. All right.
Someone's lying to you, man.
So your
Thank you,
furnace
Ulysses,
is
for just pulling that
heated
rug out
by-
from underneath Dustin one last time. It's perfect. Thank you so much.
So your furnace is heated by natural gas? You don't even know. You don't even know what your furnace is heated by.
I might not know, but I think it is.
See? You don't know.
How would you know?
I can confirm. I've been to your house. I've seen your heater. It's 100%
don't
natural
know.
gas. Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's natural gas.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you don't even have natural gas heat in California simply because of the earthquakes. It'd be too dangerous to have natural gas lines running under the homes.
We get
No,
earthquakes in Indiana too, Dustin.
Yeah. No, we get earthquakes
I'm just trying
all the
to back
time.
up my point with bullshit now, Steve.
No. We get earthquakes all the time, and gas lines get blown because of it.
See? That's why they wouldn't have it.
But they do have it because they do get blown, Dustin.
No, they get blown, and then they never get replaced.
Thank you, everybody, for listening as Dustin gets blown here on this podcast tonight.
About time.
Oh, gosh. Have a great night, Dustin. Have a great night, Ulysses.
Good night.
Bye.
I never once got the hint that you guys cared about your clients.
Wedding Photo Hangover was edited this week by Steve Van Elk of Bespoke Tone. Go to Bespoke Tone for all of your photo, video, and audio editing needs. Woo-wee!